And because my guest, who you guys probably met 2 weeks ago, if you didn't, shame on you. That means you have to go catch the replay. And we've got some new people, I think, joining us on new channels. Welcome to everyone. Linda Talaferro from the T the Extra Effort. And this is Being Brown at Work Live, which I say every first and third Tuesday are my favorite times of the month, favorite times of the week. And I am not going to prolong it because, as I just said, if you didn't catch part one 2 weeks ago, you have to catch the replay because tonight is going to be more of those wonderful gems from my beautiful guests. And let me introduce to some of you and remind those of you who Ashley Wynn-Grimes is. Ashley Wynn-Grimes is a Baltimore, Maryland native, Black female entrepreneur, and a registered nurse for more than 12 years. She's the founder of Cannabis Nursing Solutions, LLC, and the author of Stigmatized. Okay, and I got my copy. You want to get your copy, believe me. And the children's book, and I asked you this last time, Asa?
Yes, it's Asa.
There we go. I got it right this time. And the author of children's book, Asa's Medicine. Ashley's work is dedicated to empowering patients and nursing professionals to make informed wellness choices with impactful educational medical programs that also serve to promote diverse representation and increase resiliency in those she serves. During her impressive career, Ashley has worked in various healthcare settings, including telemetry, nursing, quality improvement, and professional development. She is responsible for trailblazing non traditional cannabis patient care programs in Maryland that offer standardized approaches to dispensing cannabis for nursing professionals and children in school settings. Ashley holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing and a master's degree in nurse education from Towson University. And in 2021, she was chosen for Baltimore Business Journal Leaders in Healthcare. Ashley also has a certification in professional development and is a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Ashley, welcome back to Being Brown at Work Live.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I think I said this the last time. It's always so much to hear people say all that about me. I'm like, who is that lady?
Yes, it's you. It is you. It is you. It is such an honor to have you back, Ashley. I mean, the first session we had was so powerful where we talked about you did a retrospective look right over your career and some of the challenges that you had and being burnt out and understanding what stigmatism was. Can you let's just recap and give the audience a flavor of what they missed in part one? They're going to go back and watch the replay, but do you mind just kind of revisit some of the things you shared when you took that rearview mirror look in your career?
Yeah, so I'm a nurse by trade background. I did all the things that nurses do. I was able to get my master's degree in nursing education, and I eventually worked my way up to the corporate ladder. And in that environment, I was one of few Black women. I was one of few nurses in the space, and I dealt with a lot of microaggressions that led me to being able to recognize that I myself was going through or experiencing burnout. But then I was also victimized through a cyber theft. And so through those experiences combined, it helped me to realize that I needed to spend a little bit more time taking care of myself, but I knew I didn't need a doctor. So I decided to just do research on what like wellness is. Obviously therapy was involved, but eventually I discovered things like yoga and other holistic practices. And from there, I just took what I've learned and have just found a way to become the entrepreneur that I am today. And
Yes.
so, eventually I was finding success through, media outlets and speaking engagements and writing my book and things like that. But I decided to do a slight pivot and be able to teach other holistic practitioners how to do the same thing. And so
Yes.
that's where we are today.
Yes, exactly. In our first session, because I don't want to butcher it, I remember trying to repeat the word and it didn't go well. But in the first session, you shared with us a part of ourselves that we're not really attuned to.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's called
Okay.
the endocannabinoid system.
See, there we are. And so those of you that are watching live, and I see several of you, now you see why I wasn't trying to remember or even try to recreate or repronounce that word. Endocannabinoid? No,
Cannabinoid system. Yes.
endocannabinoid system. So
Yep.
tell our audience a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, that is our is a neuroreceptor system, and it's basically the master regulator for all other systems in the body, and is responsible for helping our bodies achieve homeostasis. And
Mm,
so, endo means inside the body, and then cannabinoid is referring to the cannabinoids that we make naturally, but also can be replaced with cannabinoids found in the cannabis plant. And so,
okay.
examples are THC and CBD,
Okay.
which are those are just two examples out of hundreds of different
Okay.
cannabinoids in the plant. And so those cannabinoids, when they're in the system, in our systems, they bind to those receptors and essentially help support a lot of people's endocannabinoid system.
Ah, okay.
A lot
Got
of the reason why I didn't bring it up the first time is, a lot of our holistic practices that we
Yeah.
use, like yoga and acupuncture, they all support the endocannabinoid system too. So, it's even though a lot of people in my space will identify themselves as cannabis nurses, really I
Mhm.
see it as more of a holistic practitioner.
Yes.
You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And so, and I think it's so important. You and I talked about this when we originally met to and talked about what we're going to do on this live in the month of June. I
Yeah.
think it's so important. My audience are mostly women in corporate America, Black and Brown women are who I serve, and for me, like I shared with you, too often. Too often, we forget about the wellness side of us, right? We are so focused on that career, that corporate ladder, that next opportunity, that next promotion. And in the midst of trying to do all of that to get to those places, we forget about our bodies, our minds, our emotional state, our physical state.
Mhm.
And I even said I had not done enough lives around wellness. You're only my second guest. And all the times that I've been doing this and talking about wellness. So, for one, I'm going to do a better job at serving my audience holistically, giving them every aspect of how they can show up authentically healthy
Yeah.
themselves, which is why, and even myself, learned so much from you and my previous guests on what I need to continue to do as I walk out, my career journey. I often say who we are personally is who we are professionally. So if
Mhm.
we don't do the work on ourselves personally,
Yeah.
it'll show up, unfortunately, in an opposite way than we desire professionally.
Yeah.
So, yoga, I've done acupuncture. I swear I thought I'd never do it. I've done it. Now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. I believe yoga. I often thought I didn't have the body for it, right? I remember the first time I went to yoga, I was a little uncomfortable until I saw a couple other people walk in that were not a size 2 or 0, that didn't have huge flexibility because my hips are tight and I'm
Mhm.
clearly not a I'm clearly a sister,
Yeah.
clearly in every aspect of my hips and everything. But I love yoga. I love yoga, and the acupuncture really served me well. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That there are various ways, in addition to how you serve and your nursing practice. And I love the fact that you call it holistic nursing because I think that is truly what it is.
Yeah.
So Ashley, if we've talked a little bit about session one and your journey and how you had to work through the microaggressions, the challenges, the burnout that you experienced in your nursing career.
Mhm.
And so today we want to talk about a couple of things. I do want to revisit stigmatized
Yeah.
because we only touched on it a
Yeah.
little bit in the first session, because I think it's so important for all of us as Black and Brown women to understand we've experienced this.
Yeah.
You may think it only fits a certain category. Ashley's going to educate you right now on what stigmatism is.
Mhm.
And as soon as she does that, I'm sure you're going to understand that you've dealt with it, which is why you want to buy this book.
Yeah.
And then, so let's start there.
Okay.
What is stigmatism, Ashley? And why do we not think we've ever experienced it?
Because it's our norm. If
Whoa.
like you're
Wait,
just
I wasn't ready for that. Okay. Wait. Yes, it
yeah.
is. Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's how we
Yes.
function, is how we operate. They're all the roles that define us. So if
Wow.
we thought that it was, if you thought you were being stigmatized, you would be upset about it and you would do something different, but you don't, because it's normal. That's just how you're treated. That's just what we accept. You
Oh
know?
my God. Wait, I'm gonna see when my wonderful guests drop these little gems and they just keep talking. I gotta stop from. So if you thought you were being stigmatized, you would do something about. If you thought it was negative, you would do something about it. But because it's normal, yes, we live with it.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
deal with it.
yeah.
Give some examples, Ashley.
Um,
Because I guarantee you, I have some audience members that are listening to you and I talk, and they're still saying, "Yeah, okay, whatever.
yeah.
Maybe you guys dealt with it. That hasn't happened to me." Give some examples.
It's all the tropes. So one common one that I just personally don't just hate is you're aggressive. So because I was direct with you, or I had a straightforward conversation with you, or maybe I'm even angry, right? Like something has occurred and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
angry, and then you want to call me an angry Black woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the example, so on the cover of Stigmatized, there's a nurse that's wearing a cape. Well, for all of 2020 into 2021, we've been seen as superheroes. Well, guess what? This Tide, she ain't no superhero today. But it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't
Yes.
matter how tired I am. But if you come to me assuming that I'm a superhero, you're going to expect me to act in my superpowers. Oh my gosh, I have a cut or a bruise here. Can you put a band-aid on it today? And it's like, but no, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling upset. I have this
Yes.
pain. I have my own aches. I have these things that don't allow me to show up as the hero that you think I am. And that's all stigma. The other biggest one that's common in my industry in cannabis is that we can't do X, Y, and Z because of the stigma, right? Like people think one
Mm.
thing about the plant that's untrue because of what we have been taught. And so, what do we do about that? It requires education. It requires
Yeah.
education to know what it's like to be in the position in this context,
Yeah.
of our construct as a Black woman. It's for me to educate you, to inform you of my perspective. But the problem,
Yes.
even with that, is we have to bear the burden of responsibility of representing all the people who all
Oh.
into
Oh
that
my.
identity.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my God, Ashley, that is so, so true.
Mm.
Through that need or purpose of educating, then it becomes you, Ashley, me, Linda. Now we represent every single Black person in the world.
Mhm.
As
Mm.
if we all have the same life experiences, if
Yeah.
we all grew up in the same household, if we all had the same, and we don't.
Yeah, we don't. Not at
We
all.
don't. Not
Not
at all. Not
yeah.
at all.
And so but the existence of the stigma perpetuates that.
Exactly.
And so if we're able
Exactly.
to break down some of those walls and find the actual ways that we are connected, right? Instead of finding
Mm.
all the ways that we're different, it would allow us to be more human in the way that we interact with each other and have more empathy towards each other.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I'm going to tell you, vulnerability, these are words that you rarely, if ever, hear, at least in my world in corporate America, right?
Mhm.
And trying to climb that vulnerability,
Yeah.
empathy, a passionate, servant based leader.
Mhm.
That comes all with its own stigma,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if you walk as a vulnerable leader, if you are empathetic, if you are passionate, somehow you're seen as weak.
Yeah.
Somehow you're seen as not a decisive person. You can't be a strategic thinker. Oh, we can't put you in a critical situation and you be able to maneuver through that. You
Yeah.
have zero executive presence of which you can handle chaos and do it with grace
Yeah.
because you happen to be vulnerable or empathetic, which is it's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
It's just
absolutely.
been too much. It's been too much focus on masculine dominant energies, about that, like, feminine
Yes,
spirit. It's like, but we don't take into account that empathy is a strength,
it
right?
is.
To be able to
Absolutely.
understand what your competitor is interested in, what they value, to understand how they operate, to understand the struggles that they're dealing with, so you can better serve them as a client or a competitor, or to even be strategic about how you approach it, all comes from empathy.
Yes, absolutely, Ashley. And I'm going to tell you, I don't, I can't remember a conversation that I've had with anyone that's made that connection.
Yeah.
That's extremely powerful because, to your point, we've all heard, been kind of brought up in the environment, these masculine you're domineering. I remember I had somebody tell me, you go and take power.
Yeah.
What, really? I mean, do I just, I mean, so I just knock everybody, I just go take it. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean?
Listen, you about to help me go. You about to have me go down a whole different rabbit hole in that comment.
I'm like, what? And the person that said it to me clearly doesn't look like me, right? And
Yeah.
I had to educate him and say, you can do that, but let me even try to step my toe in taking something. I'm immediately identified, categorized as, and I gave him the wonderful list of tropes. I
Yeah.
get the whole list, you
Yeah.
know?
That,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly,
I
exactly.
mean, the
Go ahead.
conquering spirit is the foundation of American culture. So,
Oh, it is. This person wasn't American though, but still, it's similar. The conquering spirit. You're absolutely right. Oh my gosh, we could go down. You're right. We're not gonna go down because that's a whole other conversation that we can go down to. But it says a lot, right?
yeah.
It has that foundation, those undertones of why we are where we are today in the U.S. as a society.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
we get it as Black and Brown people. So, oh my gosh, this is all wonderful stuff. So this is why you coming back in the fall, Kirsten, because we're gonna dive into the stigmatism more. Look, those of you who missed part one, you might be missing part two. Kitchen on a replay. Ashley, I told her already. I'm gonna reach out to her again this fall because there's just so much wisdom and gems here that I just think are so important as we as Black and Brown women navigate our world in the workplace. So Ashley, so now we've given everyone the picture, right? We've got the context. We talked about the microaggressions, the burnout, the stigmatism. And what I want to do, because time always flies when we're having these wonderful conversations, as we go into the last 10 minutes of this segment, what would be the how to deal with that? How do I, as a Black and Brown woman, build resiliency? I know some women are probably thinking, I am really so tired of that word, Linda. Why do I have to be resilient? Uh, and I would say, and I would love Ashley to offer her comment, um, because you do. I mean, this is, it's not a time for us to just, and I don't want to say this in any disrespect. It's not a time for us to just sit back and say, I'm tired. Because don't get me wrong, I'm tired too. I've been doing this a long time, but we need to continue to drive for change, but it's not going to happen overnight. And then because we clearly we're in 2023 and it hasn't completely changed.
Yeah.
But in the midst of it, do we then just check out and take ourselves off the game? No, because we deserve to be here.
Yeah.
And if not, deserving and worth of our presence requires resiliency
Yeah.
so that we can, but in a healthy manner, move forward. So go ahead, Ashley. I would love to hear from you
Yeah.
on that
Of
topic.
course.
Yeah.
So resilience is necessary to allow, it's a muscle, right? And that muscle, the ability to be resilient, allows you to bounce back in really difficult
Mm,
situations. And we all go through them. It's just a matter of how long it takes for us to recover.
yeah. Oh, good point.
Right? And so
Yes.
the
Yes.
resilience is, how quickly can I recover from this damage or to this wound that has occurred through the difficult situation, whether it's through trauma, through a loss,
Hmm.
through the birthing process,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
so in order for our lives to feel, and like there are ups and downs, there are bad times and there are good times. In order for you to get to the good times, you have to go through the bad times. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But if you're stalled or if you're lagged in bad time land, like it leaves less time for you to spend in the good time, and so therefore your life
Hmm.
will appear to be predominantly or majority bad. Because when we
Yes.
look at the lifespan, we look at it from the lens of what happened most often and most consistently, right? And so, it's really a life perspective that for the reason for resilience is through life perspective, not
I
just
like that.
and
I like
so,
that.
yeah, and for a lot of reasons, because I work with people in my tribe, to build that resilience. And the first step in that is finding healing through the situations that they're dealing with, whether it's through burnout in their current state, or if they're dealing with a loss in their own families, or if they're dealing with, I mean, and these are real things that come up in real
Yes.
time, where they're trying to achieve certain things, but life just gets in the way, and they just need
Yes.
a soft place to land so they can build up that muscle in real time. And so the first step to being able to do that is to one, acknowledge the identities, and identify what are the expectations in each of your identities, because some of them overlap, some of them
Mm.
some of them make people upset, right? And
Yeah.
so if you are aware of all the things that you're responsible for achieving, maybe one, you can delegate, maybe two, you can integrate, right? And
Oh,
right?
wow.
And so then you be more
Yes.
intentional about how you're spending your time on a day-to-day basis to create space to build that resilience, whether it's through meditation, whether it's just taking a second to breathe, whether it's just taking a sip of water in a day, right? Because now you're not so focused on the next activity. I don't know if you've heard this, but like a lot of people say anxiety is the preoccupation with the future, and depression is a preoccupation with the past. hmm
Wow.
And so the reason why a lot of us are so
Makes total.
preoccupied with the future is that we have not itemized our task list.
Okay. See, all right. So everything you just said. Okay. So for the audience, look, I lost my mother on May 22nd, but later to rest over Memorial holiday. And I was sharing with Ashley before we came on, because she asked me how I was doing, is that I realized I was just doing, being busy. To what you just said, the point you just made earlier, right? Because life does happen. Life does happen. Have I itemized? That's okay. So whether anybody else is, you talking to me, I am hearing every aspect of this. Itemize my task list. Have I truly done? What are my priorities? Have a moment to take a sip of water, or I just take water because I say, okay, I'm eating something, I need something to drink, or am I really pausing? To your point, right? Taking a moment to just disconnect
And to just hydrate.
and just hydrate. Yes, we don't do enough of we don't do enough of that, and that is building the resiliency that we need,
hmm
because it is a life need. It is not a temporary situation, everyone, to get us from point A to point B. Resiliency is necessary for life.
Yeah.
And you build that through the hydration, you build that through meditating, which my husband has, through his experiences over the past year or so with brain surgeries and stuff, he has really been diligent. I notice sometimes he'll just sit, close his eyes, and breathe.
Yeah.
And he's just taking 5 to 10 minutes to do that. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So Ashley, as we start to wrap this session, all of this is, I'm just kind of really processing. As we
It's
start to
okay.
wrap this session on killing burnout and building resiliency, I'm going to let you take us out with any, final comments or words you want to share with the audience that, that you would impress upon them to really consider as they do processing and maybe even take action like I know your girl's going to do. I'm talking about me, y'all. I'm definitely gonna do after this. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ashley.
Here's the thing. I feel like giving ourselves grace,
Mm,
having emotional intelligence, recognizing, one of the other things that comes up with a lot of the women that I deal with within our tribe is being able to recognize when something like an emotion has occurred because of an event, right? And because sometimes
yes.
we're so numb, we haven't taken our inventory, we're not hydrating properly. So we're thirsty, we hungry, we tired, we're anxious, right? And we're
Yep.
going through all these things, so we're not able to be present. And so the next thing that comes up is the emotional response. And so, going back to your point earlier about your personal life and your professional life, you said it as if it's a separate thing when the same person who shows up in our
No,
personal life, and I don't think that's what you meant, but I just want to make sure
no,
that,
they are the same.
yeah,
Your personal life is who you are personally
yes,
is who you are
professionally,
professionally.
absolutely. And
Yes.
sometimes we'll put on a mask for professional, and then we'll let all things loose in our personal because we take them for granted. We take our families for granted,
Yeah.
And so having the emotional intelligence to show up consistently is something else that a lot of people deal with, in personal and professional. And part of the issue, especially with being Black or brown, is if you show up too Black, then you definitely might get labeled, right? And so
So true. Oh my
So,
God. Yes.
being
Yes.
able to show up as authentically as you possibly can based on your circumstances is one of the things that can be very helpful. And recognizing when your emotions respond and as a response trigger, as opposed to you using them as a guide. And so, one of the things that our emotions have been intended to do, the reason why they're here is that they're supposed to help us drive. And so, is this a bad situation? Is this a sad situation? Is this a happy situation? Right. And then if somebody
Right.
elicits guilt, anger, or fear, what are the reasons for it? Because a lot of time that's triggered within our foundational self or our inner child, you know. And so
Mm,
those
mm.
moments arise, or collective consciousness, and I can go down another rabbit hole on that one too. But being able to recognize when those emotions arise, where is it sourced, and be able to settle the emotional healing that needs to occur through that. And so,
Yes.
at the end of the day, for me, stigmatized was birthed from me. It really does go through a lot of things that I had to learn for myself. I too was
Hmm.
burnt out. I too have suffered from depression. I have been lost. I have been a victim. I have done all the things, right? I have done the things that
Yeah.
people will sit in and lay in forever. And so, and when I realized that it's actually quite quote unquote noble to get through it rather quickly, that's when I discovered what the resilience is. And I didn't know that that's
Mhm.
something that I do that well. I do that well. And so being able to
Wow.
find the framework to help other people work through it in their own time has really become where the mission lies. So even though I identify as a cannabis nurse, yeah, my niche is cannabis. Really, my thing is helping people get aligned with where they're supposed to go and help facilitate that process.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, Ashley. And this is why when I got introduced to you, I just thought it was so critically important that my audience meet you and get to know you as well,
Mhm.
because this part of ourselves cannot continually be ignored. Because as I often say, who you are personally, as I just said a second ago, is who you are professionally, and so we cannot ignore our personal selves. We just cannot lay that aside and put the mask on, as you say, when we walk into our professional environment. We just cannot, and expect to be successful. And as my definition of success is when you can be content, experiencing joy in what you're doing in your full selves. Not, I mean, I get that we go to work for a paycheck, but I do not live to work.
Yeah,
I don't live to work,
yeah,
right? And so, yes, the salary, the benefits help my family do what we need to do, live where we live. But I work to get to that, and I want to be able to fully experience life in every aspect of it. So that's why I'm so honored actually to have you as a guest for the month of June. I'm definitely going to be reaching out in the fall because I want to go down those other rabbit holes. I think it's so important for Black and Brown women to completely have the tools and methodologies and the resources they need to walk their complete journey in their lives and to do it in the most healthy way possible. So thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. Look, for those of you, like I said, if you missed part one, catch it on the replay, YouTube, Facebook, it's out there. Do not miss it. Go get that, take your notes, come back and watch this. And then while you're doing all that, go online, go out there, Amazon, wherever this book, you can find it different places, go buy it. I hate when I'm in this camera trying to get it to show up. But you want to get this book. I started reading it. I told her I stopped at part 3 because the title was death, and I wasn't quite ready to get there. But now I know what it's about, and that in itself took me at another place. So see, I'm giving you just little tidbits. That's why you want to buy it yourself. Then you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Ashley, again, thank you so much. It has. I don't know that I have words to express my depth of gratitude for your willingness to share your knowledge, your wisdom, being vulnerable, and really opening up yourself to my audience here on Being Brown at Work Live.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Take care, everyone.